أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Beloved brothers and sisters, honorable ulama, huffaz, hujjaj, mothers and fathers, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. كيف حالكم؟ Alhamdulillah. My beloved brothers and sisters, honorable mothers and fathers, honorable youth, Alhamdulillah, we must praise and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and send abundant salutations on our beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The month of Rabiul Awwal is coming to an end once again. And we know that our reflections and our increasing in our love for our beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is not limited to a specific month. But we use Rabiul Awwal normally to inspire us to learn more about our beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And so I thought, what can I speak about this evening? And very briefly, mashallah, we first make dua for, I think it's an estimated 60 people from our city that had left for Umrah, subhanallah. A record number of people from our community, that's a large number, are there now, alhamdulillah. Some of them returned recently. We make dua that Allah grants them an umrah maqboola and mabrura. Allah accept all the ibadah they performed, and may Allah return them safely to their families. Ameen. And I was so overjoyed because many of them sent me selfies, alhamdulillah, of them undertaking their umrah. And in particular, they reflect on their time in Medina. And that is what I'm talking about this evening. We started talking about this last week, but I think just as a reminder to all of us, the greatness of the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The city of Medina cannot be compared to any other city. And the ulama have written books and books about the virtues, the values, the bounties of going to the city of Medina. And the city of Medina is not a requirement in the performance of Umrah. You don't need to go to Medina to perform your Umrah. Your Umrah is intact by only going to Mecca. So why does a believer yearn to go to Medina? It goes back to the origins of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam performing the hijrah to Medina. And we spoke about this a bit last week. But a few points that I never mentioned was when our beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam reached Medina, known as Yathrib at that stage, it wasn't necessarily a blessed city per se. Prior to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam reaching Medina, it never had the same barakah. It never had the same nur, and understandably so. Because with Allah sending Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Medina, Medina changed. Firstly, the name changed from Yathrib to Medina. And our beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Umirtu biqaryatin ta'kulul qura, yaquluna Yathrib." He says that I have been commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to migrate, to perform the hijrah to a small town. بقرية, he says, a small town, تأكل القرى, it's going to overpower all cities in the world. Allahu Akbar. And he says, يقولون يثرب, and the people call it Yathrib. And then he says, وهي المدينة, but from now onwards it will be called Medina. Allahu Akbar. Because Yathrib had a bad connotation. And then listen to what the Prophet ﷺ said about Medina. And this is such an honor. Whenever, when the people send me pics now, Sheikh, mashallah, I'm here, I'm coming out of Masjid Nabawi, I'm here now. And they sent me pics. My response to every single one of them is, you are so beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In this moment, more beloved than all of us here in the city in PE. Because Allah invited you, and Allah decreed that you get to go to the masjid of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And our beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam declared that Medina تنفي الناس كما ينفي الكير خبث الحديد. He says that the city of Medina, and this is so important, it will not allow bad people in it. And he says it will remove bad people like impurities are removed from iron in its production. So Nabi Muhammad declared that only those whom Allah deems good will get the invitation to go to Medina. And those who are in Medina and they are corrupted, as we learn from a hadith, Medina is protected by angels. And any corruption is expelled because it's not befitting to be in the city of Medina. And this is the protection that Allah had granted to the city of Medina from the time of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam until the end of time, Yawm al-Qiyamah. And when Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Medina, he then declared, Al-Madinatu haramun. Medina is now a haram. It is sacred. What does that mean? It means that any, and for those inshallah who are yet to go, make your niyyah now in the masjid inshallah. May Allah accept you. For those who have been there, may Allah accept your ziyarah to Medina. And may Allah permit that all of us get to go to Medina before we leave this world. Ameen. Because it is a noble place, it is a haram. And why is it haram? It's not haram, not forbidden. It is haram, sacred, sanctified. Nabi Muhammad declared that this land of Medina is now sanctified. For those who go to Medina, you'll see the boundaries of the hudud, the boundaries of the haram are clearly marked. And they don't permit, generally, they don't permit non-Muslim to go beyond those boundaries. There are clear arches throughout Medina, on the outskirts, clearly indicating this is the boundary of the haram. And that's a very important boundary, because anyone who crosses that boundary and does a bad deed or has an impure thought, their sin is multiplied. And whoever does good within the haram, the reward is multiplied. Allahu Akbar. And Nabi Muhammad declared the city to be haram, sacred. And just as I quickly close, inshallah, when they reached Medina, let's understand, Nabi Muhammad arrived with the Sahaba preceded him, and he was of the last to arrive with Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Now imagine a group of people performing hijrah, migrating, no wealth, no family, no belongings, no business, only the clothing on their backs, reaching Medina. And we know that there's a beautiful, in fact, so much seerah and hadith that we can't do justice to it here, how the Prophet ﷺ established the community of Medina. Because when he reached Medina, it wasn't only Muslim. In fact, the Muslims were the minority. There were Christians and Jews living in Medina. When he reached Medina, and this is always a lesson that we share with the entire ummah, if they say that Muslims cannot work or live with non-Muslim, a fallacy, a misnomer. When Nabi Muhammad reached Medina, he didn't say, kill the non-Muslim or burn the churches. What did he say when he reached Medina? Because he was now the ruler. He entered into an agreement with all the inhabitants of Medina. They signed an agreement that the Jews and the Christians will be permitted to live in Medina safely. And he declared to the Muslims, you don't touch their places of worship. Look at what Nabi Muhammad declared. This was establishing a community. And for the Muslims who migrated, they never had family, they never had belongings. There's a beautiful hadith in Bukhari in which it is narrated because of the moving, the travel. You know, sometimes when people come back from Makkah, Medina, you'll see now as they arrive, you'll see they have a cold, right? They're a little bit sick. They've traveled quite a bit. They've embraced millions of people. And so naturally it can take a toll on the body, health-wise. So with the hijrah, there were some of the Sahaba that became sick. So imagine going to a new city, no home, no family, no belongings, and you are sick. How would you feel? A little miserable, don't you think? Because you're human. So the Sahaba weren't in the best of spirits because they had nothing. And the Prophet ﷺ saw this and he worked really hard to get the spirits up and to build brotherhood. In the books of Seerah, we find the term mu'akhat, that our beloved Rasul ﷺ established brotherhood between innamal mu'minuna ikhwa, that the believers were made brothers, sisters to each other. And he made two very powerful du'as that I firmly believe were accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is why as you sit in this masjid and listen to these words, as you are listening online, your heart is attached to Medina without having even smelled the air of Medina. Why? Why does a Muslim have this attachment to a city without even having seen it or been there? You know, you can go to a place and want to go back because you were there. But a Muslim has a natural inclination to the city of Medina from birth. Why? Because our beloved Rasul made two important du'as. The first one, when he saw Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was a bit sick, he made a du'a, Allahumma habbib ilayna al-madinata ka hubbina makkata aw ashad. He asked Allah, oh Allah, make Medina more beloved to us than what Makkah was beloved to us. Make Medina more beloved to us more than what Makkah was beloved to us. And so when people go on Umrah, and those who have been honored with Hajj and Umrah, you rightfully know, you perform your Umrah, if you were in Makkah, maybe after Medina, I'm yet to find a Haji, who says, I didn't want to go back to Medina. Everyone says, I want to go back to Medina for the sakina, the tranquility. And I tell you, my dear brother, my dear sister, there isn't a more peaceful place in this entire dunya than at the side of the qabr of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You won't find a place that has greater peace than sitting in Masjidul Nabawi. May Allah grant that to all of us. If you want to feel sakina, then you go into the Rawdah. The Rawdatul Jannah, the Garden of Jannah, named that by the Prophet ﷺ, that was between his house and his mimbar. And he declared that land to be sacred. And today, you must book on an app. That is the reality. There are millions of Muslims who want to go into it. Now you must book on an app so that you get at least one chance per year to sit in the Rawdah for 10 minutes. That's the reality today. May Allah grant you those 10 minutes. All of us, Ameen. And Nabi Muhammad asked that Medina must become beloved. And he also made the dua, Allahumma ja'al bil madinati di'fa ma ja'alta bi Makkata min al barakah. He made the dua, oh Allah, let the barakah of Medina be double that of Makkah. Now imagine if our beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam made the first dua, let it be beloved to the heart of every Muslim until the end of time. That is why, my dear brother, my dear sister, as you are seated in this masjid, as you are listening to this via the stream, via the receivers, your heart is attached to Medina. You haven't even seen it. Maybe you haven't even smelled the air or entered Masjidul Nabawi. And for those who have been honored to be there, they yearn to go back. They make dua, Ya Allah, return me to Medina. I had someone on Umrah, they left Medina, the next day, they texted me, they said, Shaykh, alhamdulillah, finished my Umrah. Is it wrong that my heart is yearning for Medina? First time being in Mecca. And I said, no, it is not wrong. It is a sign of your love for Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam because you were his neighbor a few hours ago. And now you're in Mecca and you completed your Umrah, but that is the connection a believer has. And Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked that it must be beloved to every believer. And it is beloved, walhamdulillah. You agree with me, I'm quite sure. And secondly, he asked for barakah. He asked for barakah, double that of Mecca. So when people go to Medina, they are always shocked. Hujjaj go and they're going to shop in Medina, then they say they need to buy an extra suitcase. Allahu Akbar. All the gifts. The barakah in the money. You go to Medina, you pay 10 riyals for a meal, you can't believe the amount of food. You budgeted for Medina, and Allah shows you your budget is more than what is needed to live in Medina. It is the barakah of Medina. And why, my beloved brothers and sisters? Because of the presence of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Don't you think that the city that hosts our beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam will be the most peaceful in this world? Don't you think that? Of course. When you enter Medina, for those who haven't been, when you enter Medina, you will feel this is not like any other place in the world. When you get to Masjid al-Nabawi, your heart will be at peace. And you'll be in Masjid al-Nabawi, and our beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that your salah in Masjid al-Nabawi will be multiplied 1,000 times in reward. Allahu Akbar. Just because you are in his masjid. And you get the opportunity, insha'Allah, this must be your dua, that Allah grants you this, and your children, and your grandchildren. It must all be the realities that you get to stand in front of the qabr of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and sing salawat and greet our beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My beloved brothers and sisters, as a result of the coming of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the city of Medina has been elevated to be of the best cities in the world. And it must be the desire for everyone to go, inshallah. May Allah permit that for all of us. Ameen. Beloved brothers and sisters, may you have a beautiful week. Wa sallallahu wa sallam, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Shukran.